All right, card gamers, welcome back, guys. I want to tell y'all about a little game I found on the eShop, not too long, about a little over a week ago, I guess. It's called Dresden Files Cooperative Card Game. And now I'll be honest with y'all, I didn't know anything about Dresden Files when I clicked on this. You may not know about Dresden Files. This game is based on it's a digital version of a board game, which is based on a book series, which I'll be honest, I have not read. I don't know anything about. I guess the main character is Harry Dresden. From what I can gather, he is maybe a detective of some sort and possibly also a wizard. There are, from my experience with this game, aliens, and I don't really know what's going on. Maybe there's some magic involved. I don't know. But this game is based on the board game. To tell you a little bit about it, just before we even jump in, the board game is available on Amazon for around $35 for the base game. And then each of the expansions, there's 5 expansions, are $10 each, so if you get everything, is $85. I'm playing on the Switch, and the Switch version of the base game is $17, which is a good deal. That's like half the price of the tabletop version, so that's good. For around $25, you can get all the downloadable content, which consists of all the extra expansions. Each expansion, I should mention, most of the expansions include 2 books, which are pretty much the campaigns, 2 campaigns, and 2 decks with playable characters each. So, if you buy everything on the Switch, it's around $42 to have everything. So that's a great value. When you compare it to the tabletop, being around $85 for everything, if you get the digital version on Switch for $42, that's a really good value. I will say that this game, I recommend, is either all or nothing with this for me. If you try the base game and you like it, you're probably going to want to get every expansion. And I suppose you could try it and maybe you don't like it, then you're only out the $17, of course. You just get whatever you want. But if you do only choose one expansion to get to start off with, I would recommend getting the one with Sanya. I don't know if I'm saying the name correctly or not, but the guy's name is Sanya. And he has some really good cards that are helpful in the game. Anyway, what is the game? You guys want to know about the game. Well, each book, which a campaign in this game pretty much is called a book, is a combination of cases, challenges, enemies, and obstacles. In this game, you are trying to solve cases and neutralize enemies, okay? Players take turns playing cards. This is a multiplayer game. However, you can play a solitaire version with just one player, and if you do, you'll play each of the hands. You have 3 characters, and each character has their deck of cards and their hand that they play cards from. And so if you play just a one-player version, then you'll be operating as all 3 characters. You just take turns rotating between the 3. Which is actually, I found very fun. So, that's a good way to go. So you're taking turns playing cards. You defeat enemies. You'll remove challenges, resolve cases. Your goal by the end of the game is to have more cases solved than enemies remaining. So how the game works is these cards, which represent, cases and enemies and all these other things, are dealt face up on the table in 2 rows of 6. So 12 cards altogether. And you'll spend turns playing your cards, which will put like clues on cases. So you play a card and it'll say put 3 clues on one case, furthest from the left or something like that. It'll tell you what to do. And once you've put enough clues, it'll have this case will be solved when it has 12 clues or something like that. And then some will have an additional effect. Say, when you solve this case, deal 4 damage to this enemy or something like that. So there's a very much a puzzle game feel to this. You really have to think ahead about what you're doing. You can't just play cards and say, all right, well, I've got this card that will attack an enemy, so I'm going to play it. You can't do it like that. You have to plan ahead and say, this card is more cost effective in this person's hand than the one I have in this hand. So why is that important? Well, every card you play has a points cost, and you can either discard the card to earn that many points, or you can play the card, but it costs that many points, and you can't go below 0. Matter of fact, if you accidentally go below 0, it'll trigger the end game, which is another really interesting thing about this game. So you take turns playing cards and going through until you run out of things to do, at which point you go to the end game, which is called the Showdown. And in the Showdown, you basically have dice rolls to handle whatever remaining cases and characters are left on the board. And, like if they have a lot of health left, then it's really hard to defeat them, and you have to get a really, really good dice roll, which almost never happens. Or if there's only a little bit left, you could get an advantageous dice roll and eliminate them that way. And in my experience, you almost always win or lose the game in the Showdown. It's a really interesting game, and that's a good mechanic. We'll say this, there's 3 difficulty levels. I played on easy most of the time, and I won around half the games. So it's a challenging game. I like to think of myself as pretty good with strategy, and I enjoy this type of game and puzzle games, things like that, thinking ahead. And this is a good, challenging game. I played some games on medium. I was able to win once. It's definitely more challenging. I don't dare try hard difficulty because I just, ooh, man, I bet you that's brutal. At some point, I'll probably try that, but it's been good enough for me to do easy and medium. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a quick break, guys. When I come back, I'm going to tell you what I really like and some things that I dislike about this game. I really have had a lot of fun playing this game. It's a different take on what you think of as a typical tabletop or card game genre. It almost feels more like a puzzle game. And I'll say this, each character in the game has their own deck that revolves around them. And now I'll say, I don't know the exact number of cards. I think it's around 10. The decks are not huge. You're dealt at the beginning of a game. I think it's 5 cards, a 5-card hand. And there's some times that you may draw cards, but there's really not a lot of card drawing in the game. So you pretty much are just deciding who has the best cards to deal with each and every objective. How are you going to solve more cases than enemies? Are you going to try to, is there like 4 or 5 enemies on the board and you're going to try to take them out and then just maybe solve one case and have no enemies? Are you going to maybe solve all the cases and then hope that you can kill one enemy? You really have to analyze the board. What gets dealt in each player's hand, and see what your best route to victory is. And I like that sort of strategic concept. It's different. It definitely feels different than most card games you'll play. If you're like me and you see card game and you're attracted to it, just prepare yourself. It's a little bit different, but I enjoyed that. We'll say this too. Getting a round win feels very rewarding. And because it is difficult and strategic. So you feel like when you get a win, you did things perfectly. And maybe you got a little bit lucky along the way, but you definitely put yourself in a position to win with good strategy. If you lose, it makes you want to try again differently. And I will say that there are so many games that I won or lost on the last dice roll of the Showdown, which is the end game here. And that feeling really makes you want to go back and play another game. And I found myself keep coming back after that time and again. The sound in this game is interesting. I don't know what to say other than it's interesting. There's not really music, so to speak. It's kind of ambient sounds. There's thunder. There'll be, thunder strikes, and you'll hear like city street noise. It's like ambient noise. And you may even hear some people like murmuring, but you can't quite make out what they're saying. It kind of has a spooky feel to it. I like that. I don't know if everybody will like that. I kind of think it's spooky, man. It's creepy. Like if you turn the lights off and you're just like, cozied up in your bed and, lights are off, you're playing Dresden Files card game and, there's just these like spooky sounds. I will tell you this, man, I really did, get spooked. I got scared by a thunderclap one time that I was not expecting. So I don't know if everybody will like that, but I did. One other thing, there is a character in this game called Waldo Butters. That's his name, Waldo Butters. Now, obviously, I haven't read this book, so I don't know anything about these characters really. And I guess that's a transition, but his name is Waldo Butters. What is there not to like about Waldo Butters, right? I mean, that has my attention. His name is Waldo Butters. What did I dislike about the game, though? And that's kind of a transition. I didn't really know what was going on at any given time from a story perspective. I know that will bother some people who, with card games, are really into the universe and want to know about the lore and things like that. Man, I've played this game quite a bit. I've played through most of the campaigns, and I still have no idea what really is going on, and I don't know much about the characters. There's not much of an explanation. For example, in one of the campaigns, there's I'm sorry, not a quest. It's a case called "Is Carboni the Murderer?" Well, I don't even know who Carboni is. I solved the case. I still don't even know if Carboni was the murderer or not. I don't know who is Carboni? And I think maybe there's one card that says, who is Carboni? And then there's another, a later campaign that you come to, and Carboni's name shows up again. And I'm like, is this guy an ally? Is he an enemy? And now, to be fair, I haven't read the books, so maybe it's presented that way in the books. You just don't know who this guy Carboni is. But I still had no idea even who he was or what his significance was. And that's kind of the feeling I get playing through this game. Now, obviously, fans of the books will probably not be bothered by that. But if you don't know much about it, like I did when I came into it, then playing this won't change that at all. You just still won't know much. You'll just see a bunch of pictures of characters and things like that. The card art is the same on each card of a series for each character. So let me explain that. First, let me say that the card art is pretty good. It has like a comic book style to it, and the pictures are interesting, and there's a little bit of light humor in the game. So the card art is not bad. But for example, we'll say that the main character is Harry, and if he has 3 attack cards in your hand, the art on all 3 attack cards is exactly the same. It'll be like him waving a wand or something, and the little magical burst is coming out of it. Even though the effects are different and the cards are different, the names of the cards are different, the actual art on the card is exactly the same. And they just didn't need to do that. Now, I understand that this video game is based on the board game, and I'm sure that's the way it is with the board game. So, whatever you want to say about that is fine. But they just didn't really need to do this because they already have different color borders for different card types. So it's not an identification tool. I mean, I guess it is, but I don't really feel like it was necessary. So it came off as kind of like cheesy and maybe lazy on whoever's decision it was to make it be that way. It's not an accurate depiction of what's going on. There was one character's card who it said something like Karen's karate move or something like that. And the picture on the card is her like blasting a pistol at somebody. And I thought, well, I guess that is an effective form of karate. I don't know a lot about karate, but you blast a pistol on somebody, that's usually going to be a pretty good move. But that I think will bother some people. It really didn't take away from my enjoyment of the game that much, but it could have been better done if it was different. One thing with this game, and this was probably the biggest drawback for me, let me say this, the developer and publisher of this game is Hidden Achievements. However, there are no achievements in this game. From what I can see, there's no unlocks, there's no achievements. There's not really much to keep playing for, and I wanted to see more of that. That has really driven me back to games like Lord of the Rings and Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I'm going to talk about soon. There's always something to come back and play about. You can earn points, you can redeem to get different things, you can get different card skins, things like that. There's not really too much like that in this game. It does keep track of your record with different characters and decks and your win-loss on different campaigns. So that is good too. And you can, completionists will want to, get a win with every character and defeat every campaign. And so there's plenty of replay value. I think the replay value is actually incredibly high. And, every time you play a game, it's a different game. So the replay value is incredibly good, but man, it really would have been just phenomenal if there was like extra achievements, like say, hey, beat this round without removing obstacles, or, and if you got points for that or something. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy, just even like a character avatar or something you could unlock, or different, card skins or something. I don't know. Anything, any little thing would have been interesting and fun. If you could have done different like backgrounds, or like play mats and stuff, to unlock and achieve by doing, games and getting a good score or something. Uh, Unlockables and achievements would have been really good. Come on, hidden achievement. You guys missed an opportunity on that. It would have been so good. But anyway, there's kind of some nitpicky things that I wasn't crazy about. Overall, this is a very fun game. It's a good game. And so here's the deal. For $17, you can try this, check it out, see if you think it could be something you're into. And I would say if you kind of are intrigued by that puzzle type strategy game feel in a card game, then you should definitely check this out. And I think you'll love it. I think you'll end up getting the downloadable content if that's you. If you're a fan of Dresden Files in any way, shape, or form, you should probably get this if you don't already have it. And I think you'll really enjoy it. This was a good, fun game. I really have enjoyed my time with it, and I'll probably go back and keep playing through these campaigns and try different character combos and things like that. It will last you a good long time, and it's a challenging game. It's a strategic puzzle type card game, and man, when you get that win, you really do feel good. I would give it a 7 out of 10. This is a good game. Some people will really love this game, and some maybe it's not your cup of tea, but I think most people will enjoy this game. It's a good, fun game.